Larry and Andy worked very closely with a company called Pixel Liberation Front, and they created extensive set of essentially dailies.
Pre-visualization is the process of taking storyboards and creating a 3D animation out of it so that you can represent in the real physical world a stunt sequence or visual effects sequence so that in the real world it can be accomplished.
Basically, it's one step beyond storyboarding in that we can have an accurate depiction of the space that the shot takes place in and the time.
We have to do some animation based on storyboard and based on the director's vision, and then we have to make sure that this is something that can be shot.
Visual effects team, the photography team, the art department, the stunts team, we are all working in concert on pre-visualization and planning of all sorts using computer graphics as our medium.
I thought it was really important to early on establish the relationship of the previs that PLF did. So I had Rupin build these models.
And so what this is it's a three-dimensional model that's basically a starting point that we can then talk about how to stage action in this environment. The next stage then is to take, since we have these virtual sets now, is to go into like a storyboarding phase where we can position virtual cameras within these environments and actually plan shots.
Brothers make up their dream shot, and the Pixel Liberation Front puts it on a computer and spits out a synthetic version of it.
We have a model of our shooting stage, or one of the proposed shooting stages, and those blue cones are different sight lines of the different cameras in the whole tractor-trailer fight. Once Larry and Andy have said that's our sequence, that's how we want it to be, we'll go through with John Gata and the other supervisors and then analyze, can it actually be done, or how are we actually going to do it?
And if it is impossible, we try to figure out ways to come up with something different, better. Conceptually, it's a hard thing because I'm following a computer that can do anything.
They basically developed every shot they thought they might want to see. Because you can now previs things, you can do more complicated scenes.
The main goals of the previs are to define the creative vision of what the directors want to see in the sequence. Pretty much what we do is do a simple mock-up of the scene, whatever you need to see in the scene. For example, on the freeway chase, we built a freeway and filled it with cars driving at different speeds and could cover that action from all different camera angles.
The freeway chase had great viz, particularly like the motorcycle against traffic.
We basically fed them the information and they brought it back to us with our exact information. So it wasn't out of line.
RA gives us speeds and basic capabilities of the drivers and how fast they can change lanes and all that stuff.
Feet, movement, speeds cars travel, distance between cars, how long does it take to stop, how long does it take to travel. And particularly Kyle, you know, he'd phone me up, hey, I got this idea, or there's something I want to run by you. You know, and I go in and we sit down for 15, 20 minutes or whatever, or how long it took. And they just came up with a great concept.
And the process that we're going through is we've devised a shot that we like, and then we'll take markers out onto the freeway, mark out a slalom course for her to ride through.
So we literally walked the freeway and precisely to his plans, put marks on the ground for the pattern of the motorcycle that Trinity rode, along with the motorcycle that had the camera on it, and then we would leave out what was considered too dangerous.
And by prevising it, all the key department people could see exactly what they had to do.
If we get finished with the previs, Zach can cut it together into a relatively tight cut.
So all that then came to me in the editing room, and we cut them into a sequence. In the Siege, we put the cut together, we got a budget back, we saw what was working, what wasn't working, we would introduce new elements, we would take elements that were originally planned and dump them. So it enabled us to really go deeply into the scene before it was shot.
Larry and Andy will kill us if you show a happy-go-lucky skipping APU.
Well, the classic way to do what we do is to make foam core models or have little posed action figures cruising around in a cardboard set or something like that, but that's a little bit difficult to do. Sometimes people make periscope cameras and things like that. The first usage of computers for doing similar to what we do, I think, goes back to the early 80s where Robert Abel and Associates had made some sort of attempt to program motion control cameras via a computer that could show what the camera would see. Some people think it's a very new thing, and certainly it's new in terms of sort of more widespread popularity, but the idea's been around for a long time.
The main point of all this is to, ahead of time, come up with all the camera angles and the lenses that are desirable and the camera moves in order to tell the story.
The symbol that we've done a good job is when we do a sequence and it ends up exactly the way we previs it. That always feels good. Is that good? The goal in the end is to make sure that the crews that are going to go and shoot this sequence can actually get out there and do it armed with both the creative vision and the technical planning.
It's really critical to have this kind of previs because it really lets everyone know what they need to be responsible for.
I don't think you could create a scene like The Siege without previs.
The whole point is for the directors to design sequences without regard to the shooting limitations. Our goal is to take the shot that they wanted and put it on the screen for them.
It's pretty much the contemporary way to plan out a feature with, fantastic imagery in it.